It's 2054 and the world has changed. Gone to hell, more like. It started when magic came back. The awakening, some called it. You're rubbing elbows with orcs, elves, even trolls these days.
Jason, I love me some Shadowrun.
Oh yeah,
I love me some Shadowrun. I'm a sucker for any of that futuristic cybernetic kind of hoo-ha razzmatazz. It's only like an added benefit that the universe tends to have orcs and trolls and fucking crazy shamans. I mean, what the hell kind of RPG universes has both mages and shamans in the same universe?
There was one on the Xbox 360 that had that, a game. What was it called? Oh, Shadowrun.
Well,
you like that one too?
No.
How many stars would you give it?
The Xbox 360 Shadowrun?
Yeah.
I think I played a demo of it, and I gave that like 0 out of like -1,000,000 stars because that game was garbage. But hey, welcome everybody to Rage Select. I am Jeff. And
I'm Jason.
We're going to review Shadowrun Returns. We're trying to get back into the habit of reviewing stuff. I feel like we've been rusty. We haven't done this. But you know what? I realized that Summer of Arcade starts this week.
Oh yeah, what comes out?
It's Two Brothers comes out this week.
Two Brothers. Is that anything like Two Guns with Mark Wahlberg and Denzel Washington?
I don't think so. I actually think that Shadowrun Returns is more like Two Guns than Two Brothers is.
Okay.
But this is made by Harebrained Schemes is the name of the company, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but this was actually a Kickstarted game, and it made actually.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
Kickstarted games don't actually materialize.
No, it's like the third one we've played this year. I think. I know that Mercenary Kings was because I contributed to it, and there was another one, Strike Suit Alpha or something like that. But this is actually one of the big ones. This is one of the ones that happened very shortly after the whole Double Fine thing because it made $1.8 million out of a $400,000 goal.
Hot damn!
Yeah, so
I gotta get in on this Kickstarter video game thing.
Can we be the first? Are we gonna be the first ones, Jason? Are we gonna be the first people to set up a fake Kickstarter and then run off with the money to like Venezuela or somewhere without extradition?
Well, now we're not because you just fucked it up.
Well, people won't know. Nobody listens to the reviews.
Yeah, we're gonna have like 15 people who are gonna know.
But this is a kind of an isometric third-person turn-based RPG where you get to. It's really more of a throwback than anything else. Like it's kind of based on the Shadowrun game for the Super Nintendo, which is a little bit disappointing to me because I was always more of a fan of the Sega Genesis Shadowrun game personally. But you start out the game and you pick between a bunch of you create a character. It's very Baldur's Gate. You saw it when we did the character creation where you pick a portrait and then you have this kind of low resolution, low poly character. The character models are actually probably one of the weaker parts of the game. Like they came out of 8-year-old video game, but they usually keep the camera so far zoomed out that it doesn't really make all that much of a difference. But then they let you out into this world of Shadowrun where the basic plot outline is that an old partner of yours has been killed and you have to go investigate his death, and it leads you into this twisted web of corruption and intrigue and magic and mystery and old faces and new faces and yay. And that's pretty cool.
It sounds like really that the main thrust of Shadowrun is this awesome world that it's set within.
Yeah, and I mean I think that the whole downward pitch in my voice at the end of that yay maybe speaks a little bit to how modern RPGs have kind of ruined me, because this game is like almost to a fault just linear. Fucking so linear. Like, not quite Final Fantasy 13. There's only one hallway that's the entire game from start to finish, but close, really close. Like, you start this game and you have And I got to give it to him. Like, this is very much kind of a Deus Ex like layout where you can talk your way through some situations. You can bully your way if your strength is high enough. If you have these certain character traits, you can like in the beginning you could pick like a type of personality where you're like ex law enforcement, so you run to law enforcement, you're like, hey, wait, I know what about that. So you can kind of find a bunch of different ways you can pay people off, you can bribe people with items to get through various situations in the game, but it's all in this one corridor that goes from start to finish. There are maybe about 4 or 5 different places in the game where you can split off from the main storyline and do kind of like little side quests, but they usually are just like, run right over here, get this one thing, then you're back into the main story quest.
Sure.
In fact, like, it's weird because in Shadowrun, they have the system set up. I mean, that's the whole nomenclature there of a run is like a job that these people who are kind of living outside of the law do for money, who use magic and technology and guns and all this stuff to get these jobs done. And only once in the game that I could find, I mean, I may be totally wrong with this. I played through the game like 1.5 times, but only once in the game could I ever find a place where you found a person to just give you a junk throwaway side quest, where at one point during the game you find this one guy who's like, hey, I need you to go extract this scientist from this research facility, and I'll give you 9,000 new yen if you do it. Do you want to go do that? And you can say, yeah, and then you hire a bunch of runners, and you go over there and you do that. So it was a little disappointing in that way, because I'm used to now with games like Deus Ex or Skyrim or Fallout or Saints Row or, just any of the open world kind of stuff. There's generally a little bit more meat on the bones of RPGs. We expect more from our RPGs nowadays.
Yeah. Well, do you think that was done by design? I mean, because a lot of people, okay, maybe not a lot, but I know some people don't really like side quests and they just want to do the main thing.
Honestly, I think that it has more to do with the structure of the game as a Kickstarter game.
Okay, that's honestly what I think as well, but I was just throwing that out there.
Yeah, because I think I need to look, and while we're doing this, I'll take a quick look at it, but like if they had only gotten $400,000, it would make sense for them to be making this very loose framework storyline. And I think that a lot of the stretch goals that they met in the game were like they put in this character from the Super Nintendo game, Jake Armitage is in the game, which isn't a spoiler because you see him in the first like 10 minutes of the game. It's on Linux, it's on like tablets. It's in a bunch of different places, and I think that a lot of the stretch goals that they had for this game ended up not enhancing the overall story that they wanted to tell, but actually beefing up the back end and the character editor and the system that they've built more than it did go to making the single player story more complicated. The only thing that really kind of bugs me about that whole thing, though, is that this game has an editor and it's built in this very modular, like put down buildings and put down junk, and it's a very simple world builder because it's a single camera, so you can't turn the camera. Everything is 2D. It's all rendered from this isometric top-down perspective, and I think that it would have been nice if they would have just, like, every time, because you have this hub in the game that you go to called the Seamstress Union that you go to after each action sequence. And if they just had one guy in there that every time you went back there, you could get a junk side quest to grind for money or experience or whatever you wanted to, that would have just fleshed this out a little bit more. Because the game is kind of short. Like, you could plow through this thing if you're trying in a good 6 to 8 hours, which in this type of game, in a turn-based tactical RPG, that's fucking fast, man. Like, that's nothing.
Yeah. So I mean, is that what they're going? Are they going to do that, or are they just going to rely on the community, though? Well,
the thing is that I've seen reports online, and I haven't looked into them just right this second, that they're going to have another module out for the game in October. And there's already, like I said, the game does come with a full-on character or like a full-on editor, and there are already people out there who are making modules for the game. So I think that it's a sort of thing where, I mean, the game is only, and this is another thing, is that if you go to Steam, the game's only $20 on Steam. So we're getting into this really weird thing where this game is technically a smaller indie game that is just presenting itself, that just seems like it should be a much bigger game. So, like, I have a hard time, like, I want to tell people about these drawbacks in case it would affect their decision, but I don't necessarily think, like, I feel like the game is totally worth what I paid for it. I feel like it's totally worth $20 because you get about an 8-hour campaign. There are multiple classes that you can go back and play the game over with. And it plays out slightly differently. You'll have different conversation options. They aren't huge. It's not like, like I said, it's not like Deus Ex or anything. It's going to be mostly the same game, but it's a fair amount of replay value. And then there's a whole Steam Workshop community where you can get mods, and people are working on building new modules for it. And it seems like the sort of thing that you're probably going to have a fairly small dedicated fan base that, as long as you're okay with that kind of rougher element of things that are made by other people, that this would totally be up your alley.
As opposed to things that are made by demigods.
Right. If this was, you compare this to XCOM, right, that came out last year, and even though it's not really the same because XCOM wasn't a narrative, but XCOM was a much bigger game. It was much more polished around the edges. This is a lot rougher around the edges. Like, I can honestly say, I played the game with a Decker. I also played the game with a Rigger character. The game was pretty easy. On normal difficulty level, you're going to probably find, it is nowhere near as challenging as XCOM was, but there is one other serious problem that needs to be mentioned. That's the fact that you can't save on demand in this game.
What?
It auto saves when you complete a thing, or when you transition from combat back into regular, or when you at a certain point when you transition between areas, it'll save. You can exit the game, but it's kind of wonky. And it's got this function where you can rewind back to different checkpoints, but you can't force the game to save. And I think right now, as this recording, I believe there is a beta patch out there that may or may not have been pushed out into full production, where they're going to try to add that into the game. But when I played the game, I actually lost progress a few times because I just quit the game and I didn't check to make sure that I had saved, because
that's some shit from the dark ages. We've progressed farther than that as a people.
That's like gout and scurvy and like sailing diseases and shit.
Yeah, and other horrible things. It's like right up there with those.
It's just, what this game really reminds me of is if this game had come out for $50, like in the PlayStation 2 era on the PC, it would have been considered a really, really super good game with a cult following. And I think that what you're doing for the trade-off here is that you're paying less than you would normally pay for this, because you're paying the same amount of money for this that you would pay for something like Surgery Simulator or Teleglitch or Bleed or some of those indie games, the $20 things that you'll see. Papers, Please. Those are mostly $10, but you're not paying $60, and what you're getting for your $20, if you're willing to invest in it, is actually an awful lot. But it is rough around the edges. The single-player story is very short, and you're probably going to be relying on a lot of community involvement. So if you don't want that, if you just want like a 60-hour RPG for $20, fucking wait till Skyrim goes on sale on Steam. Buy that instead. You'll be much happier.
Or don't wait. Buy it right now like an American.
Jason has a really interesting...
Someone who loves children and happiness and other fine things in life.
Apple pie and baseball and America.
Yeah, don't let the terrorists win.
So yeah, I think that this is another one of those games that's hard to just straight up rate, because it does have a lot of downsides. But I feel like I'm in a really unique position because I've played games like this back when they used to be the new hot shit that were out. I mean, things like the original Fallout, that may be a little rough around the edges now. This kind of reminds me of sort of like that. It's a turn-based action game. And it seems like you're kind of making an investment. Like the shit could go places or it could not. But I mean, there's other stuff that I haven't even talked about. Like this game seems like it was made for an iPad because there's not a lot of hotkey support, so it's difficult to switch around between different things. Like you have a bunch of different weapons, but you have to go down and you have to click on this one thing. Real small stuff, but it doesn't seem like it's super optimized for PC. And I hope you're into reading, because there's absolutely no voice acting in this entire game. Entire goddamn game is giant swaths of text that you're expected to read. So I know there's some people out there that are going to be totally into the things that I'm saying, and they're going to hear me say those things. They're going to be like, "Oh hell yeah, I'm totally getting that." Others of you are going to be like, "I don't know, that doesn't sound like my kind of thing." And if it doesn't,
reading,
yeah,
oh fuck that,
fuck a bunch of reading. So yeah, at the end of the day, I think I'm also going to give this game. I'm going to give this game 4 out of 5. Like, it's not a perfect game, but for $20, I got a lot out of it. I'm going to look forward to. This is one of those games that I'm really looking forward to coming back in like 6 or 8 months, like having a reason to just go back into Steam, go like, did they ever release that one? Oh yeah, they totally did, and getting another 4 or 5 hour campaign or buying a $2 expansion or something too, because I like the universe. I like what Harebrained Schemes has done here, and I'm willing to make that investment. So. But now I'm going to open up 4 different windows and play Skyrim on all of them because I'm not feeling American enough right now, Jason.
That's right.
Not feeling.
You'd better and drink a Coca-Cola and have a smile and call your mom and tell you loved her, because that's what Skyrim is there for. It also died for your sins.
Man, magic, and machine. Takes it all to survive in the shadows. Welcome to the Sprawl.